It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a Wednesday evening. Dustin Nielsen and Tommy Gazzola with you. It's a little bit later than usual. I was traveling today. Tommy was working, doing a golf shoot for 1260. I had to put my kids to bed. But nothing's changed in the last 6 hours or so, Tommy, so that's fine. Nothing says evening oil stream like a delicious Popeye's chicken sandwich. Pick one up today at all of their locations and get some of their juicy nugs while you're at it. Tommy, what's up, my man?
Not much. Shout out to Jason Rasmussen over at Coal Creek, who I know you know.
Oh, love that course.
And it was awesome to get out there. Got to spend a day out there doing a shoot. Looking forward to seeing the new In the Bag feature that I know you did for many years, and now I get to try to maintain and do what you guys were able to do, and I love it. I had a great time.
It's a great way to meet golf people, buddy.
Oh my goodness,
100%. I love it.
Big shout out to Jason. Yeah.
That course is unbelievable. We'll have to get out and play cool. I usually get out there once or twice a year, and I can't wait to get out there again for sure. That's a beautiful course, no doubt about it. All right, this is kind of like my first chance to talk about the game, really, because man, that was absolutely insane, Tommy. We've already got somebody in the comments saying that Darnell Nurse needs to be scratched. So people are pretty fired up about the game. What was your post game like, and what was the big thing that everybody was talking about? What was the number one issue?
Darnell Nurse was one of them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, obviously it was the interpretation of offside that, without question, took over. I don't pop off usually, and I
Did you pop off?
I popped off, and people, even a couple people were like, hey, Tom, settle down. Like, but it was a slow build up, and then I really got fired up. And it wasn't that I didn't understand I fully comprehend and understand the rule. It's just stupid. It's completely ridiculous, the interpretation of possession and how it was broken down. Like, even if it happened in a game featuring Nashville and Washington on a Tuesday night in February, I would be like, that is the stupidest thing I have ever heard in terms of a description and possession and reason why a goal stood. I don't know if it would have changed the overall outcome of the game. It did have a 2-goal swing, but
that's a huge swing. That's a massive swing. What went down there, right? Like,
totally. What irked me was some of the people being like, "Oh, I knew what that rule was. Didn't you know what that rule? We've seen this like 20 times." Like, no, we haven't. Shut up. Don't smart ass us. That what we witnessed last night was beyond ridiculous.
It was. So I'm doing the CFL game, which was conveniently timed at the exact same time, essentially, as the hockey game. So I get home last night, went for a couple of drinks with the crew, finally settled in to watch the game around like 11:30. I'd sort of seen everything that happened, but I settled in, I watched it. When I got to that part, man, I went back and forth on that goal, like looking back at it and trying to see. And then, on Twitter, you see, I must have watched it 30 times. And in my brain, I watched it immediately go, well, I know why they challenged it, because look at that. That's offside. Like, he has control of the puck as he comes in. And, I've seen members of the media who were directed by the National Hockey League to talk about it that way that have gone and said, no, this is the right call. Yeah. I have seen, a lot of former officials and current officials say, no, this is the right call. They got it. And I guess if the rule is, and it's weird because you're looking at the rule book and you see some possession over here, and then you see touching the puck over here. Do you think by the rule book they got it right, and it's just a rule that none of us have ever understood? Because to me, with the way that they call the offsides now, to me, that's one that I was just like, well, no, easily not offside. What are we talking about? And now I've sat down and I've watched them try to justify it a little bit. And I'm like, man, if technically that's the rule, then I guess just none of us knew it. But, I mean, you've got guys out there who played in the league for a decade who are just like, I didn't know that was offside or that was onside in that situation. So, I mean, I'm completely torn on it because I'm looking at the guys trying to justify it. I'm going, okay, so I kind of see the case there. But you're telling me Cale Makar didn't have possession of the puck because he lifted his stick at that moment to say, I don't know, man. I'm frustrated with the entire thing.
Yes,
frustrated with
no,
the entire thing. Like, yeah,
you do know because
yeah.
the rule
Look at
has
me right
been
now.
the same forever. You look great. You look great. My goodness, you're frazzled. What you do, your instincts are right. You do know, but
Yeah,
because of an interpretation or going into the minutia of the wording, they're saying that it's onside. Like he did not know that if he removed his stick from the puck within that instant where Nichushkin tagged up, that he would be playing it technically correct and it would be onside. Not a chance in hell. And then the
that's
other
all
thing
he
too,
was doing. He was thinking of dangling in and doing what he
yeah,
did. Yeah.
yeah. Bruce McCurdy had a great line today on the lowdown. I filled in for Tide. And
Yeah.
Bruce McCurdy's like, so what are we going to just start saying that Connor McDavid, every time he takes the puck up the ice, has 250 micro touches? Is that how we look at it now? Like, well
Yeah.
said, Bruce. And then the other thing in the rule book, and a lot of people brought this up. I think Ed was a caller yesterday on the post game show. He's like, well, if you have intention to touch the puck after you take it in and it's offside, then the play should be whistled down. And obviously, Makar had every intention of touching the puck after he miraculously, or such a smart hockey IQ play where he took his stick off the puck for that instant where Nichushkin tagged up.
So do you think what they're saying in that one, because you're right, I mean, let's say, you know, you always see guys who are going in after, they don't know that they're offside, they're going to pressure the puck carrier, and boom, it gets whistled down.
Yeah.
In that situation, I guess they're saying Makar wasn't technically in the zone until Nichushkin came out. Like, that's basically they're out on this thing, right? Like, his feet weren't in the zone yet, whether he touched the puck or not. He still technically was outside of the zone until Nichushkin crossed over. I think that's kind of the justification that they were trying to make, but
sounds ridiculous. If
Yeah.
even we're trying to justify the justification, and we're trying here, and it sounds wrong.
Well, you can't do anything about it now. The Oilers are going to try to bounce back and go past it. Jay Woodcroft said what you would expect Jay Woodcroft to say, and, you know, they didn't lose the game because of that. Tommy, why did they lose the game then?
Because they were terrible defensively.
Yeah.
In the neutral zone, in their own zone. They were getting crossed up. They were chasing. They're backing in on their goalies. It was not a tight game by any means structurally by the Oilers, and somehow they still almost managed to claw their way back into it. So that needs to change, and it's becoming deja vu, obviously, with these game ones.
Yeah,
where
very much. Yeah.
they're brutal in game one, but the bottom line is you could say they weren't ready, but throughout the entirety of the game, the defense and the back pressure, getting pucks out of their own zone, it wasn't good. It just flat out wasn't good, and Colorado had their way whenever they had the puck.
Too easy. Way too easy for Colorado to not just score goals, but to get looks. It was way too easy for the Colorado Avalanche to get good looks on Mike Smith. Mike Smith, I'm not going to put a lot of those goals on him, but at the same time, you want to mix in a save every once in a while and some of those grade A scoring chances that they beat him on. So I know they're going to go back to him. I know Jay. What do you think? What do you think Jay Woodcroft's philosophy was of not officially just saying we're going back to Mike in game 2? Because he's done that both ways now. Like after the Kings game, he was like, we'll see. After Calgary, he's like, Mike's our guy. This time, maybe we shouldn't read too much into it, but I did find it interesting that he just didn't say, like he did after game 1, when we all know he's going to go back to Mike anyway, why he didn't say that. Like
maybe after game 1 against Calgary, like that was such a bad game, and Mike Smith was so bad in it that he just needed
He
to
was way worse
declare
in that game than he was in this one,
Yeah, and maybe he could be a little bit more ambiguous like he could be after game 1 against LA, and that was his course of action. I expect Mike Smith to be in that unless he's hurt or something, but I doubt it. I don't have any indicator to tell me he's banged up. So I think it'll be Mike Smith. Good for Mikko Koskinen. What do he make? 20 saves on 21 shots?
He did pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Smith is clearly their starter in the playoffs.
Okay, Darcy Kemper. What if Darcy Kemper's out? What does that do for this series, Tommy?
I think it makes it a hell of a lot more interesting because good for Pavel Francouz, too, to play the way he did, make some big saves. He still allowed a few goals, Dusty. But this goalie, I mean, both Colorado goalies are beatable. Kemper is the more high-end, bigger name, bigger ticket goalie. We know that.
To be honest with you, I don't know personally, I don't know if I see a ton of separation between the two guys anyway. Like, I think a lot of Kemper is based on what they're paying Kemper. Yeah. Like, I mean, Francouz had like a 9.16. Like he's he's not a bad goaltender by any stretch of the imagination. Like I don't think you sit there and go like the Oilers. Personally, I don't think they were losing sleep going, oh man, we got to face Darcy Kemper this round. You know what I mean? Like if they were, then I'd be pretty damn surprised by that.
Yeah, no, I mean, Kemper is beatable. And clearly, whatever was ailing him from before, you could just see it on Jared Bednar's face when Kemper went over and skated to him. It's like, okay, yeah, go out, because he knew. So something was bothering him. And if it is Francouz's crease, I think that opens the door slightly more for the Oilers. It should give them more confidence. I mean, they've scored 58 goals in 13 games?
It's ridiculous.
They're doing all right. They're doing all right.
Yeah, they got 6 goals last game. I mean, if you look at positives, kind of said the same thing against Calgary. And maybe this time people aren't freaking out as much because we already saw this happen against Calgary. Now, what we did see against Calgary is a Mike Smith bounce back and the team bounce back here as Tommy, even though, I mean, they fell behind against Calgary in game 2 and then worked their way back as well. I don't want to say we're simplifying it here, but are you 100% expecting a big bounce back from this team in game 2, or is this different because it's McKinnon and Rantanen and Makar and Landeskog and Kadri?
I expect a bounce back. That's just the nature of this team right now, and that's in their DNA is when they play bad or they back into a game or are weak defensively, the next game after they get embarrassed or lose the way they did, like they did last night, they generally come back with a strong effort. Now, I'd like to see a good start. That's something that's plagued this team is they don't really get off to good starts. They have been able to more so lately, which is nice. But yeah, absolutely, I expect a bounce back. You could kind of tell it in the way the guys were talking last night, and even Leon Draisaitl. I know Leon Draisaitl is a confident person, but when he was asked about the concern going into game 2, he's like, "We'll be fine. We'll be fine." And usually when he says that, they back it up.
They back it up. Yeah, well, what'd you think of McDavid and Draisaitl in game 1?
Tougher sledding for them. I know that eventually they had their chances. Yeah, they're going to have to find different ways of attacking the Avs compared to how they went after the Flames, compared to how they went after the Kings. Like, I don't necessarily think it's going to be tougher sledding offensively to get points against Colorado. I just think the way they find and look for holes in the Avs defense and maybe tendencies and stuff like that are going to have to be a little bit different than what they saw from Calgary. There's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period. And you could even see in the second and third periods when they started scoring goals that they started to understand how they're going to generate offense against the Avs. And I expect them to continue to do that.
All right, let's get to your Ken Morrison Remax question of the day, brought to you by our friend Ken Morrison. Visit his website at kenrmorrison.com, or if you're buying or selling or you're just straight up nosy, fire him a text, 780-993-4815. Tommy, what do you got tonight?
All right, the Ken Morrison Remax Excellence question of the day is this, Dusty. After what we saw from the Oilers and Avs last night, do you have more confidence in the notion that Edmonton could win this series than you did before, or less confidence in the notion that Edmonton could win this series, considering how that game went yesterday?
You might hate me for this, but I'm going to say same level of confidence. Like I know it wasn't an option, but as you were asking it, and I think it's a really good question, I'm sitting here going, Game 1 didn't change my opinion at all in either way. So, I mean, I expected them to lose a game like that in this series. Maybe we should have expected to be Game 1 just because of what we saw in Game 1 last time, but I fully expected them to lose a game by allowing 7 or 8 goals to the Colorado Avalanche. Probably only one. Maybe only one. But it's happened now. So, what you've seen from Jay Woodcroft, and the adjustments that he'll make, and maybe we'll talk about that before we wrap up this episode for sure. I don't think my opinion changed at all coming out of game 1, because part of it, I see them score 6, I go, oh, well, they can beat them, and then part of me sees them give up 8, and I'm like, man, they got to tighten things up defensively, which is exactly kind of what I thought this series would be coming into it. So, yeah, my opinion of win this series or lose this series did not change at all coming out of game 1. I expected them to lose game 1. I thought they'd lose one game somewhere along the way in this style of game. Right. And I expect them to bounce back and win game 2. So that really doesn't change much for me. What about you? What's your answer to this question?
Watching that game and how it went down, like, I was waiting almost for the Oilers to be completely outmatched, and
Full blown hammer dropped
I
on
thought
them.
the Avs could be the team that did that. And for a little while there, when it got to 7-3,
Yeah.
I thought, okay, yeah, this is going to be tough sledding. This is going to be an uphill battle. But then they clawed their way back, and I thought to myself, no, there's an opening here. There's clearly an opening here, and they're starting to expose it. And if they continue to, the old cliche, pull on the thread and completely unravel things, I think they'll find some success. So for me, seeing that there's a way to beat the Avs, and the Avs are not bulletproof, after watching last night's performance, even though it was an 8-6 loss, I thought, yeah, I actually feel like they have more of a chance of winning this series than maybe I initially gave them credit for. So, yeah, I think my confidence in them having the potential to win this series has gone up slightly.
I'll just straight up, I love this question. I'm probably going to steal it for my show tomorrow morning. I think this is going to be a pretty good discussion point. Did you do that today on the Lotai show? No, I think it's a really good question, man. I would love to see where, you make a lot of great points. You really do. I'd love to see where people are on this one. I think that's a really good question, buddy. We're going to open the phones at 7:30 tomorrow morning and see what people say. That should be a go. That's your Ken Morrison Remax Excellence question of the day. He is a Remax Hall of Famer. Put your business in his hands. Tommy, looking ahead here to Game 2, do you expect any Woodcroft tweaks? What do you think? What do you think he does adjustment-wise?
Yeah, I know the big one is do you flip Brett Kulak with Darnell Nurse? And Nurse had really bad moments last night. So did a couple other defensemen. Nurse stood out the most because he usually plays the most. He's up against the toughest competition. And maybe that's one of those adjustments. I don't think they'll go 11-7, Dusty, but I do think that the incremental way of going about handling it is, A, they'll have feedback with Darnell Nurse and get to see where he's at, talk to the doctors, all of that. And then B, if they determine, okay, we need to dial back his minutes or put him into different situations, maybe they do make that adjustment with Brett Kulak. I think you start there. Otherwise, I don't know if you go 11-7 necessarily right away. I think you go back to Mike Smith. He's got a .957 save percentage in games that aren't Game 1 in the postseason, which is just insane.
Wild. What is he, honestly, if they get to the Stanley Cup final, start Koskinen in Game 1.
Yeah, just
it can't be as bad as it's been with Mike Smith.
No.
Yeah. And then you go to Smith the rest of the way.
Yeah. So I think he's got an .814 in Game 1 save percentage, which is stinky beyond belief. But yeah, that's kind of how I see it. What do you think, Dusty?
I don't think he'll do much. I think he'll probably leave things the way they are. The Nurse conversation's an interesting one. Kulak's been so steady. Nurse, you're right. As far as players go and based on their expectations, Nurse probably had the worst game on the entire team. With that being said, I'm not really going to harp on him too much for the McKinnon goal. You get Nathan McKinnon with full speed coming across you like that. I don't know many defensemen except for maybe the one on his own team in Cale Makar that's going to be able to make a better play. I don't know what you're supposed to do in that situation. That's McKinnon full steam ahead, catching the puck 4 feet in front of you.
And Dusty, why did he have a seam why did Devon Toews have a seam like that to hit him?
That's true.
With speed?
Yeah.
Because guys were standing still in the neutral zone.
Yeah.
And it was McDavid's line.
And these are all things that you'd have to think that Woodcroft gets them refocused on heading into do you see Gretzky on the TNT panel saying, you have to play defense to win a Stanley Cup? What did he drop? I might be the most talented offensive player ever. It's yeah, man.
Humble brag. Rightly so.
You could have not scored a goal and still been the leading point scorer in league history. So, yeah, you probably were. You don't need to say likely. Yeah. Come on, man. But I do expect a bounce back in Game 2 for the Edmonton Oilers. And look, they gotta. If you fall down 2-0 Colorado, and I know they sweat. They swept 4 in a row against Calgary after losing Game 1. So if they lose 2, could they take 4 or 5 from the Colorado Avalanche? With 3 of them being at home, maybe. I'm not going to say they're done, but my goodness, that task went from here. If you lose Game 2 to out of the screen up here, that's not going to be easy. So I'm very excited to see what Connor McDavid brings to the table after having like a little bit of a slow start, not one of his better games of the playoffs, and now here on the road, chance to get a split against Colorado, man. There could be something special coming from 97 tomorrow night for sure. I think that'll be good.
Bring it on. Bring it on. And I'm glad you brought up Wayne Gretzky because, as you know, he's a proud member of the highest scoring brother tandem in National Hockey League history, him and Brent. Brent did some great work.
Yeah, exactly. All right, that's going to do it for another episode of the O-Stream. Tommy, what time are you on pregame tomorrow? Getting everybody ready in the city for Game 2.
Yeah, we've got an action-packed 5:00 p.m. start on the Don Wheaton GM on
She's a busy one.
Show. It's busy. You know why? Gregor's going to be there. Struddy's going to be there. Matty Cassidy's going to be there. Connor Halley's going to be there. It's going to be an hour of just nonstop Oiler talk, which we like to obviously do this time of year in the playoffs. Shout out to the Edmonton Oil Kings, by the way. If you can't make it to an Oilers game, Oil Kings start Friday against Seattle. That's going to be a great series.
And it's 2-2-3, right? Because of
some,
it's two here, 2 there, and then 3 here to wrap up because of some scheduling conflicts. I'd like to make a big stink out of it. Like, how does that happen? But this thing might not even get to Game 5 anyway, man. The Oil Kings, I got buddies who are in WHL markets texting me being like, buddy, this Oil Kings team is like nothing we've seen. Like, they are absolutely stacked. They're going to win the WHL championship. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So if you have a chance to get out and cheer them on, definitely get out there and cheer them on. Tommy, we'll be listening to your pregame tomorrow, buddy. And if you've been watching on the live stream tonight and you're not yet subscribed to the podcast, just search the Oil Stream on all your podcasting platforms. The month of May was by far our biggest month for downloads. Let's just say that one.
Oh my God.
Right,
you know how proud I am to be part of like this tandem, and the stuff we're doing in the oil and gas podcast sphere right now is amazing.
Buddy, you have a great night, man. And I will talk to you with another episode of the Oil Stream on Friday.
Sounds good, Dusty. Welcome back to town.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm here for 24 hours. I fly out tomorrow at 3:30. So nice to pop in and see the family. I'll talk to you later, man.
Sounds good.